Grace Miller's hands were shaking so hard the glasses on her tray rattled together like wind chimes. She'd served hundreds of people at Murphy's bar. Drunk businessmen, celebrating couples, lonely souls drowning their sorrows. She'd learned to smile through everything, to be invisible when needed, present when called. But seeing Luke walk through that door, his arm around her, the woman with perfect blonde hair and a laugh that carried across the entire room, shattered something Grace had been holding together with tape and prayer. "Grace," Murphy called from behind the bar. "Table 7 needs refills." Table 7, Luke's table. She forced her feet to move, forced the smile to stay plastered on her face. Professional, invisible, just doing her job. "Another round?" she asked, voice steady despite the earthquake in her chest. Luke looked up. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt? Recognition? Then it was gone, replaced by cold indifference. "Yeah. And make it quick this time." He turned back to his date without another word, like Grace was furniture. Like the 3 years they'd spent together meant nothing. Like she meant nothing. His date, Madison, Grace had heard him call her, giggled at something on her phone. "Babe, look at this." Babe, the word he used to call Grace. She took their order, walked back to the bar on legs that felt like water, and somehow made it through the rest of her shift without falling apart. When Murphy finally said she could go, Grace grabbed her coat and pushed through the back door into the alley. The November air hit her face like a slap, cold and sharp and real. And then, finally, she let herself cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just silent tears that slid down her cheeks and dripped onto her worn shoes. She pressed her back against the brick wall, hugging her coat tight around her chest like it could hold the broken pieces together. Why am I never enough? The thought came unbidden, cruel. Her mother had left when she was 12. Her father worked oil rigs and came home twice a year. Luke had promised forever, then walked away like she was disposable. Grace wiped her face with her sleeve, trying to pull herself together. She had class tomorrow morning, had to study, had bills to pay, no time for this. "Excuse me." The voice came from her left, deep, quiet, careful. Grace's head snapped up. A man stood a few feet away, hands in the pockets of an expensive-looking coat. Tall, dark hair, strong jawline. Even in the dim alley light, she could see the sharpness in his features, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or boardroom portraits. He wasn't looking at her like men usually did, not with hunger or pity or dismissal. He was looking at her like he was trying to solve an equation, and she was the most important variable. "I'm sorry to intrude," he said, voice still low. "I was across the street. I saw you come out. You seemed—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Are you all right?" Grace's first instinct was to lie. To say she was fine, nothing to see here, please go away. But something in his eyes stopped her. They were brown, deep brown like rich coffee, and they held something she couldn't quite name. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of pain. "I'm okay," she said anyway, because what else do you say to a stranger? "Just a long night." He took one step closer, still keeping respectful distance. "The man inside, the one at table 7, he hurt you." Oh, it wasn't a question. Grace's throat tightened. "It's complicated. It usually is." He was quiet for a moment. "I'm Austin." "Grace. Grace." He said her name like he was testing how it felt. "I know this is forward. I know you don't know me. But I need to say something, and then I'll leave you alone." She nodded, too tired to argue. Austin's jaw tightened, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made her chest ache. "He should have treasured you." Grace's breath caught. 4 words, simple, direct, but they landed like an anchor, heavy and real and undeniable. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "I know enough." He pulled a business card from his pocket, held it out. I also know that crying in an alley at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday usually means someone needs a change. If you're interested in a job, legitimate, well-paying, flexible hours, call that number. Grace stared at the card like it might bite her. Why would you offer me a job? You don't know anything about me. I know you worked an entire shift after watching someone hurt you, and you didn't let it show once. I know you're trying to hold yourself together even now. His eyes softened. I know strength when I see it, Grace, and you're stronger than you think. Before she could respond, he stepped back. Think about it. No pressure, no strings, just an opportunity, if you want it. He turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner like he'd never been there. Grace stood in the alley, his card in her trembling hand, reading the name embossed in elegant silver letters. Austin Kingswell, CEO, Kingswell Foundation. Below it, a phone number. She knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. The billionaire philanthropist who'd built schools and hospitals. The man who never did interviews, never attended galas, never let anyone close. And he'd just told her she was strong. Grace looked back at the bar, where Luke was probably still laughing with Madison, where her minimum wage and tips would never be enough to pull her out of the hole she was in. Then she looked at the card again. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt something that wasn't despair. She felt possibility. Grace didn't sleep that night. She sat at her tiny kitchen table in the studio apartment she could barely afford, Austin's business card propped against her nursing textbook, staring at it like it might reveal some hidden trick. People like Austin Kingswell didn't offer jobs to waitresses crying in alleys. That wasn't how the world worked. There had to be a catch. But what if there isn't? The thought was dangerous. Hope was dangerous. Every time Grace had let herself hope for something good, it had fallen apart in her hands. Her phone buzzed. A text from her friend Mia, who worked the day shift at Murphy's. Heard Luke showed up with new girl last night. You okay? Grace typed back. Fine. Just tired. Another lie. She was getting good at those. By the time the sun came up, Grace had made a decision. She'd call the number. Not because she believed in fairy tales, but because she was drowning, and when someone throws you a rope, you don't ask why. You just grab it. She dialed at exactly 9 a.m., hands shaking worse than they had holding Luke's drink tray. 2 rings. Then a voice. Female, professional, warm. Kingswell Foundation, this is Marissa. How may I help you? Hi, my name is Grace Miller. I was given this number by... She stumbled over the words. By Mr. Kingswell. He said to call about a position. Oh, Marissa's voice brightened. Yes, Grace. He mentioned you might call. Can you come in today at 2 p.m.? He'd like to meet with you personally. Grace's brain stuttered. Today? Yes, I can do that. Perfect. I'll text you the address. Business casual is fine. And Grace? Marissa's voice softened. Don't be nervous. He's much nicer than the media makes him seem. The call ended. Grace stared at her phone like it had just spoken a foreign language. This was really happening. She spent the next 4 hours trying on every piece of clothing she owned, finally settling on a simple navy dress and the only pair of flats that didn't have scuff marks. She looked in the mirror, saw the dark circles under her eyes, the way worry had carved lines into her young face, and did her best with the makeup she had. You can do this, she told her reflection. It's just a meeting. The Kingswell Foundation building was downtown, all glass and steel and intimidation. Grace stood on the sidewalk, craning her neck to see the top, wondering if she should just turn around and go home. Grace? She turned. A woman in her 40s, elegant and kind-faced, stood by the entrance. I'm Marissa. So glad you made it. Come on, let's get you out of the cold. Inside was warmer, but Grace's nerves kept her frozen. Marissa led her through a lobby that looked like it cost more than Grace's entire life, into an elevator with buttons that went up 30 floors. Austin's office is on 28, Marissa said, pressing the button. He's finishing a call, but he won't keep you waiting long. The elevator was so quiet, Grace could hear her own heartbeat. When the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway lined with photos. Children in new school uniforms, ribbon cuttings at hospitals, smiling faces that all carried one message. We were helped. Marissa stopped at a door marked simply, A. Kingswell, private. She knocked once. Austin? Grace is here. Send her in. Marissa smiled at Grace. Go ahead. I'll be at my desk if you need anything. Grace pushed open the door, stepped inside, and stopped breathing. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than a car. And standing by the window, hands in his pockets, was Austin Kingswell. In the alley, he'd looked handsome. Here, in his element, he was something else entirely. Commanding, powerful, untouchable. Until he turned around and smiled, and suddenly he was just the man who'd called her strong. Grace, thank you for coming. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Please sit. She sat, hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. He sat across from her, not behind the desk. Equal ground, she realized. He was being intentional about that. I'm sure you have questions, he began. I would, if someone made the offer I made you last night. Why did you? The question burst out before she could stop it. You don't know me. For all you know, I could be, I don't know, unreliable or... You worked a full shift after seeing your ex with someone new. You held your composure until you were alone. You've been juggling work and nursing school for 2 years, never missing a class. He said it matter-of-factly, like reading a weather report. Grace's eyes widened. How do you know that? I did my research, I always do. He leaned forward slightly. The foundation needs someone to coordinate our nursing scholarship program. Someone who understands what it's like to fight for an education. Someone who won't just process paperwork, but will actually care about the students we're helping. I've never done administrative work. You manage 20 tables on a Friday night, handle drunk customers with grace, and balance your own budget on minimum wage. That's more impressive than most MBAs I've interviewed. His eyes were steady on hers. I'm not offering you charity, Grace. I'm offering you a job because I think you'd be excellent at it. She wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it hurt. What's the salary? He named a number that made her dizzy. Nearly 3 times what she made at the bar. Enough to pay rent, tuition, and maybe, actually save something. Plus benefits. Health insurance, which you'll need for nursing school clinical rotations. Flexible hours so you can keep attending classes. And if you want to transition to full-time after graduation, we always need nurses at our clinics. It was too good. Too perfect. What's the catch? Austin was quiet for a moment. The catch is that I need someone I can trust. This foundation. It's not just about money for me. It's about actually changing lives. I've had too many employees who saw it as just another job. I need someone who understands what it means to need help. And you think I'm that person? Based on seeing me cry in an alley? I think you're that person based on the fact that even when you were breaking, you were still thinking about getting to class the next day. Still thinking about your responsibilities. His voice softened. I think you're that person because when I asked if you were okay, you still tried to protect yourself. Still tried to be strong. That's the kind of strength we need here. Grace felt tears prickling behind her eyes again. She blinked them back. When would I start? Monday, if you're interested. Marissa will train you for the first week. You'll have your own office, your own projects. You'll actually make a difference, Grace. She thought about Murphy's bar, about Luke's indifferent eyes, about the stack of bills on her kitchen table and the textbooks she could barely afford. She thought about Austin's words last night. He should have treasured you. And she thought about what it might feel like to finally be valued. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. Austin's smile was like sunrise. Slow, warm, transformative. Good. I'll have Marissa send you the paperwork today. Welcome to the team, Grace. He stood, extended his hand. She shook it, his grip warm and firm and steady. As she left his office, Grace realized something that made her chest tight. For the first time since her mother left, someone had looked at her and seen potential instead of problems. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth taking a risk. Monday morning, Grace stood outside the Kingswell Foundation building at 7:45, 15 minutes early, because showing up on time felt like showing up late. She wore the same navy dress from her interview. It was her only professional outfit, and carried a notebook she'd bought specifically for this job. Inside, she'd written one sentence on the first page: "Don't mess this up." "You're early." Marissa appeared beside her, holding 2 coffee cups. "I like that." "Here, you look like you need this." Grace took the cup gratefully. "Thank you, I'm a little nervous." "Don't be. Austin doesn't hire people to watch them fail. If you're here, it's because he believes in you." Marissa held the door open. "Come on, let me show you your office." Your office. The words felt foreign in Grace's mouth. She'd never had an office. She'd barely had a desk. They took the elevator to the 15th floor. Not as high as Austin's office, but still higher than Grace had ever worked. Marissa led her down a hallway with frosted glass walls, stopping at a door with a nameplate that made Grace's breath catch. Grace Miller, Scholarship Coordinator. "It's real," Grace whispered. "Very real." Marissa pushed open the door. The office wasn't huge, but it was hers. A desk with a computer, a window overlooking the city, shelves waiting to be filled. On the desk sat a welcome basket with office supplies, a foundation handbook, and a handwritten note. "Welcome to the team. You belong here." Austin Grace touched the note, fingers trembling. "He wrote this. He writes one for every new hire. Says it matters that people feel seen from day one." Marissa smiled. "He means it too. Austin's different than most bosses. He actually cares." The morning was a whirlwind. Marissa walked Grace through the scholarship program, how applications were reviewed, how funds were distributed, how they tracked student progress. It was overwhelming, but in the best way. For the first time, Grace was learning something that wasn't just about survival. At noon, Marissa suggested lunch. They took the elevator down to the cafeteria. Subsidized, Marissa explained, so employees could eat healthy without going broke. And Grace found herself surrounded by people who looked happy. Actually happy. "Is it always like this?" Grace asked, watching 2 women laugh over their salads. "Like what?" "Friendly, positive." Grace poked at her sandwich. "I'm used to people being miserable at work." "Austin's intentional about culture. He pays well, treats people with respect, and actually listens when there's a problem. Turns out when you don't treat employees like disposable parts, they stick around." Marissa leaned forward. "Can I ask you something personal?" Grace tensed. "Sure." "The guy at the bar, the one Austin saw. Are you okay? Really okay?" Grace was quiet for a moment. "I thought I was in love with him. Turns out I was just in love with the idea of someone choosing me. When he didn't..." She stopped, swallowing hard. "It hurt. But I'm starting to think maybe it hurt because I didn't value myself enough to walk away sooner." "That's very self-aware for 23. "I've had a lot of practice being on my own." Grace managed a small smile. "But this job, this chance, it feels like maybe I don't have to be anymore." Marissa squeezed her hand. "You don't. We're your team now." The afternoon flew by. Grace reviewed scholarship applications, each one a story of someone fighting for education like she was. She took notes, asked questions, and felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Purpose. At 5 p.m. there was a knock on her door. She looked up, expecting Marissa. It was Austin. "Hi," he said, leaning against the door frame. "How was day 1? Grace stood up quickly, suddenly aware of how casual he looked. Sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. "Good, really good," Marissa's been amazing. She's the best. He glanced at her desk, covered in organized notes and color-coded files. You're a natural at this. I'm just trying not to mess up. Grace. He said her name like a gentle correction. You're not going to mess up. You're going to be great at this. I can already tell. She didn't know what to say to that. Compliments felt like traps. Say, thank you too much and you seem needy. Say it too little and you seem ungrateful. Austin seemed to sense her discomfort. I actually came to ask if you'd join me for a site visit tomorrow. One of our scholarship students just started at County Hospital for her nursing clinical. I like to check in personally. I thought you might want to meet her, see the program in action. I'd love that. Good. I'll pick you up at 9. Wear comfortable shoes. Hospitals are a lot of walking. He pushed off the doorframe. And Grace? You did well today. Really well. After he left, Grace sat in her chair, staring at the door he'd walked through, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. She pulled out her phone, saw 3 texts from Luke. Heard you got a new job. Moving up in the world? Don't forget where you came from. We should talk. 6 months ago, these texts would have sent her spiraling. She would have analyzed every word, wondered if he missed her, hoped for reconciliation. Now she deleted them without responding. Because for the first time in her life, Grace was looking forward instead of backward. And forward looked like a man who wrote welcome notes, remembered her strength, and saw her as more than just the girl crying in an alley. Forward looked like possibility. Austin's car was not what Grace expected. She'd imagined something flashy. A sports car, maybe. Or one of those luxury sedans with heated seats and a price tag bigger than her student loans. Instead, he pulled up in a simple black SUV, the kind of vehicle that said practical, not pretentious. He got out to open her door, and Grace felt that strange flutter again. "Good morning," he said, and she noticed he was smiling. A real smile, not the careful one he wore in business photos. Ready to meet Riley? Riley's the student. Riley Martinez. 21, single mom, working toward her RN while raising a 3-year-old. She's incredible. Austin pulled into traffic with easy confidence. I think you two will get along. The drive to County Hospital took 20 minutes. Austin didn't fill the silence with small talk or turn on the radio. He just drove, occasionally glancing at Grace like he was checking to make sure she was comfortable. "Can I ask you something?" Grace said finally, the quiet making her brave. "Always. Why do you do this? The foundation, the scholarships, all of it. You could just, I don't know, be rich and not care." Austin's hands tightened on the steering wheel, just for a second. "When I was 15, my mom got sick. Cancer. We had money for treatment, but we didn't have anyone who cared. The hospital staff treated her like a number. The doctors never learned her name. She died surrounded by strangers." His voice was steady, but Grace heard the pain underneath. "I started the foundation because no one should have to fight alone. Money helps, but what people really need is someone who sees them." Grace's throat tightened. "I'm sorry about your mom." "Thank you." He glanced at her. "That's why I noticed you that night. You weren't crying for attention. You were crying because you felt invisible. I know what that feels like." Before Grace could respond, they pulled into the hospital parking lot. County Hospital was old, overcrowded, underfunded. Everything a teaching hospital shouldn't be, but often was. Austin led Grace through the chaos of the emergency room to a quieter wing where nursing students were doing their rotations. A young woman in scrubs looked up from a patient chart, her face lighting up when she saw Austin. "Mr. Kingswell." "Riley, good to see you." Austin hugged her quickly, then stepped back. "This is Grace Miller. She's our new scholarship coordinator." Riley's handshake was firm despite her small stature. "Grace, Austin told me about you. Said you're in nursing school too." "I am. 2nd year. It's brutal, right? But worth it." Riley's eyes shone with purpose. I'm doing my PD's rotation right now. Best decision I ever made. They talked for 20 minutes about classes, clinical hours, the impossible balance of school and life. Riley told them about her daughter, showed them pictures, talked about her dreams of working in pediatric oncology. I want to be the nurse I wish my mom had, Riley said quietly. Someone who actually cares. Austin's expression shifted, pride mixed with something deeper. You will be. You already are. After they said goodbye, Austin and Grace walked back through the hospital in silence. Grace watched him, noticed the way he greeted staff by name, the way he stopped to help an elderly man find his way to radiology, the way he seemed completely at ease in a place most billionaires would never step foot. You really do care, Grace said when they reached the car. Of course I do. What's the point of having money if you don't use it to matter? He opened her door. Riley's going to change lives, Grace, because someone gave her a chance. That's what the foundation does. We give chances to people the world overlooks. Grace slid into the passenger seat, her mind spinning. Like me. Austin paused before closing her door. Especially like you. On the drive back, Grace asked more questions. About the foundation, about other students, about Austin's vision. He answered everything, his voice warming as he talked about the work. But when she asked about his father, his face shuttered. He's not part of my life. The words were final, a door slamming shut. The foundation is funded by my mother's life insurance and my own work. My father wanted nothing to do with it. Grace didn't push. She understood closed doors. Back at the office, Austin walked her to the elevator. Thank you for coming today. I think it's important for you to see the impact firsthand. It was... Grace searched for words. It was the most meaningful morning I've had in years. He studied her face, something unreadable in his eyes. You have a good heart, Grace. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The elevator arrived. Grace stepped inside, turned to face him. Austin? Yes? He should have treasured you too, your father. He should have seen what I see. Austin's breath caught. For a moment, his carefully controlled expression cracked, showing something raw and vulnerable underneath. Thank you, he whispered. The elevator doors closed, and Grace leaned against the wall, her heart racing. She was falling for him. Maybe had been since that night in the alley, and that was dangerous, foolish, impossible. But when she got back to her office and found a text from Luke. Can we meet? I miss you. Grace realized something important. She didn't miss him. Not even a little. Because how could she miss someone who'd never really seen her? When Austin Kingswell looked at her like she was the answer to questions he'd been asking for years. She deleted Luke's text and got back to work. Grace had been working at the foundation for 2 weeks when Luke showed up. She was in the lobby, carrying a stack of scholarship folders to Marissa's desk when she heard his voice. Excuse me, I'm looking for Grace Miller? Her whole body went rigid. She turned slowly, hoping she was wrong. She wasn't. Luke stood at the reception desk, looking exactly like he always did. Charming smile, expensive jacket, that confidence that used to make her knees weak and now just made her tired. The receptionist was pointing toward Grace. Luke's eyes found hers. Grace, there you are. He walked toward her like he had every right to be there. Wow, this is quite the upgrade from Murphy's. Grace set down the folders carefully, buying herself time to breathe. What are you doing here, Luke? I wanted to see you. You haven't been answering my texts. His smile didn't reach his eyes. New job, new phone number. You're a hard woman to track down. I've been busy. I can see that. He looked around the lobby with barely concealed disdain. So this is where you landed. Pretty nice for a waitress. The comment stung, but Grace kept her voice level. I'm the scholarship coordinator, and you still haven't answered my question. What do you want? To talk. to apologize. Luke stepped closer, lowering his voice. Madison and I, it's not serious. I made a mistake, Grace. I miss you. 6 months ago, these words would have been everything she wanted to hear. Now they just sounded hollow. I need to get back to work, Grace said quietly. Grace, come on. Don't be like this. At least hear me out. Is there a problem here? Austin's voice cut through the lobby like a blade. Grace turned to see him standing by the elevators, his expression calm, but his eyes sharp as broken glass. Luke straightened, recognition flickering across his face. Austin Kingswell, didn't know you hired my ex-girlfriend. I hired Grace Miller, an exceptionally qualified candidate for a position she's excelling at. Austin walked toward them with measured steps. And you are? Luke Harrison. Grace and I go way back. Luke's smile turned smug. 3 years together. Guess she didn't mention me. She mentioned someone who didn't appreciate her. I'm assuming that's you. Austin's voice was deadly polite. If you're here for business with the foundation, the receptionist can help you. If you're here to bother my employee, I'll have security escort you out. Luke's face flushed red. I'm just trying to talk to Grace. Austin's eyes never left Luke's face. Do you want to talk to this man? Every eye in the lobby was on them now. Grace felt her face burning, but Austin's steady presence beside her gave her courage. No, she said clearly. I don't. There's your answer. Austin gestured toward the door. Please leave. Luke looked between them, jaw clenched. This is ridiculous. Grace, you're really going to let him? Mr. Harrison. Austin's voice dropped to something dangerous. I asked you politely. I won't ask again. For a moment, Grace thought Luke might actually argue. But something in Austin's eyes, something cold and absolute, made him think better of it. This isn't over, Luke said to Grace, then turned and walked out. The lobby slowly returned to normal activity, but Grace felt like she was vibrating out of her skin. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he'd come with me. Austin's hand found the small of her back, gentle but steering her toward the elevator. My office. Now. They rode up in silence. Grace's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. He was going to fire her. This was too much drama. She'd brought her personal mess into his professional space. The elevator doors opened. Austin led her to his office, closed the door behind them. Sit. He pointed to the couch, not his desk. Grace sat, hands twisted in her lap. Austin poured 2 glasses of water from the bar in the corner, handed her one, then sat beside her, not across, beside. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm sorry he came here. I never told him where I worked. Grace. Austin's voice was firm but gentle. Stop apologizing. You did nothing wrong. But he made a scene. He made a scene, not you. He showed up uninvited, made you uncomfortable, and refused to leave when asked. That's on him, not you. Austin's jaw tightened. Is he dangerous? Do I need to be worried about him coming back? No, he's just persistent. He doesn't like losing control. Losing control of what? You're not his property. I know that, but Luke, he's used to getting what he wants. And when I stopped answering his texts, Grace's voice cracked. He probably thought showing up here would make me feel small. Remind me I'm just a waitress who got lucky. Austin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and intense. Grace, look at me. She did. His eyes were blazing. You are not lucky. You are talented, hard-working, and brilliant at this job. You earned this position. You belong here. And anyone who makes you feel otherwise is lying to you and themselves. His hand covered hers on the couch. Do you understand? Grace nodded, not trusting her voice. If he comes back, you tell security immediately. If he contacts you again, you tell me. I will handle it. Austin's hand squeezed hers gently. "You're not alone, Grace. Not anymore." The tears she'd been holding back spilled over. Austin didn't tell her to stop crying. He just handed her tissues and sat with her while she fell apart, his presence solid and real and safe. When Grace finally pulled herself together, she managed a watery smile. "Some scholarship coordinator I am, crying in the boss's office. Some boss I am, making my employees cry." Austin's lips quirked. "We're quite a pair." Grace laughed despite everything. "Why are you so nice to me?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He was quiet for a moment, his thumb absently tracing circles on the back of her hand. "Because someone should be," he said finally. "And because—" He stopped, seeming to wrestle with something. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who's been fighting her whole life to be seen. And I understand that, more than you know." Grace's heart did that complicated thing again. "Austin," a knock on the door interrupted them. Marissa poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt. Austin, your 2 o'clock is here. Tell them I'll be 5 minutes." Austin stood, helped Grace to her feet. "Take the rest of the day. Go home. Rest. Come back tomorrow ready to prove to yourself that you belong here." "I don't need the day off. I know you don't need it. I'm giving it to you anyway." His hand touched her shoulder briefly. "And Grace? That man in the lobby? He's your past. You're building your future now. Don't let him take up space in it." Grace nodded, throat too tight to speak. As she gathered her things and headed for the elevator, she realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. Austin Kingswell wasn't just her boss. He wasn't just the man who'd given her a chance. He was becoming the person she trusted most in the world, and that was the most dangerous position of all. Absolutely not. Grace stared at the dress hanging in her office like it might attack her. "There's no way I can wear that." Marissa laughed. "It's just a dress, Grace." "That's not just a dress. That's... Grace gestured helplessly at the emerald green silk that probably cost more than her rent. "That's a statement. That's a look at me, I belong here dress. And I don't belong at a gala with billionaires and—" "Austin wants you there." Marissa said it gently but firmly. "The Foundation's annual fundraiser is our biggest event. All the scholarship coordinators attend. It's part of the job." Grace had been dreading this for 2 weeks, ever since Austin mentioned it. A black-tie gala at the city's most exclusive hotel. 500 guests, donors, politicians, socialites, people who would take one look at Grace and know she didn't belong. "I don't even know how to do this kind of thing. What do I talk about? How do I—" "You talk about the scholarship program. About Riley and the other students. About the work that matters." Marissa squeezed her shoulder. "And you let Austin handle the rest. He's good at this, even if he hates it." That surprised Grace. He hates galas. Hates everything about them. The fake conversation, the performance of it all. But he does it because it funds the foundation. Marissa smiled. "He'll probably spend most of the night looking for an escape route. Maybe you can be his excuse to leave early." The thought of being Austin's escape route made something warm bloom in Grace's chest. The night of the gala, Grace stood in her tiny bathroom, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The dress fit perfectly. Marissa had somehow known her exact size. Her hair was swept up in a simple twist, her makeup subtle but polished. She looked like someone she didn't recognize, someone who might actually belong. Austin had sent a car. Grace rode to the hotel in silence, her hands twisted in the silk of her dress, trying to remember how to breathe. The ballroom was a dream. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, women in gowns that could fund a year of nursing school. Grace felt every eye turn toward her as she entered, felt the weight of judgment from people who knew she didn't belong. Then she saw Austin. He stood by the bar, looking devastating in a tuxedo, talking to a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. When his eyes found Grace across the room, everything else disappeared. He excused himself and crossed to her in long strides. "Grace." "Hi." Her voice came out breathy. "You look nice." "Nice?" His lips quirked. "You look extraordinary." Grace's face heated. "Marissa picked the dress. Marissa has good taste, but the dress isn't what makes you extraordinary." His eyes held hers, serious and intent. "You are." Before Grace could respond, a woman in diamonds appeared at Austin's elbow. "Austin, darling, you haven't introduced me to your date. Grace Miller, our scholarship coordinator. Grace, this is Patricia Worthington, one of our major donors." Patricia's smile was sharp as knives. "Scholarship coordinator. How lovely. And where did you study, dear?" The question was a trap. Grace recognized it immediately. "I'm currently finishing my nursing degree at State." "Oh, State." Patricia's tone said everything her words didn't. "How ambitious." "Grace is one of the most capable people on our team," Austin said, his voice cool. "The students love working with her." "I'm sure they do." Patricia's eyes swept over Grace dismissively. "Austin, we simply must talk about the hospital expansion. Excuse us, dear." She pulled Austin away before Grace could respond. He looked back over his shoulder, apology in his eyes, but Patricia had him cornered by a group of suited men. Grace stood alone in the ballroom, drowning in silk and inadequacy. "First gala?" Grace turned to find a kind-faced woman in her 60s smiling at her. "That obvious?" "Only because you look like you'd rather be anywhere else." The woman extended her hand. "Margaret Chen. I run the literacy program with the foundation." "Grace Miller. Scholarships." "Ah, you're the one Austin won't stop talking about." Margaret's eyes twinkled. "He says you're transforming the program." "He talks about me. Constantly. It's refreshing, actually. Austin usually only talks about work." Margaret leaned in conspiratorially. "I've known him for 5 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Grace's heart stumbled. He's my boss." Margaret didn't sound convinced. "Well, your boss is heading this way and looks like he's about to commit murder." Grace turned. Austin was indeed approaching, and his expression was thunderous. "Grace, we're leaving." "What?" "But the gala just started." "I don't care. We're leaving. Now." He took her hand, started leading her toward the exit. "Austin, what's wrong?" He didn't answer until they were outside, the cool night air a shock after the stuffy ballroom. Then he turned to her, jaw tight with fury. "Do you know what they were saying in there? About you? About us?" Grace's stomach dropped. "What were they saying?" "That you're sleeping with me for the job, that you're a—" His hands clenched into fists. "I won't repeat the words, but I will not stand in a room and let people disrespect you like that. Austin, no. Listen to me." He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. "I brought you to this gala because you're brilliant at your job, because you deserve to be here, because every single person in that room should know the foundation is stronger because of you." His voice dropped. "Not because of anything else. Never because of anything else." Grace's eyes stung. "They'll always think things like that. People like me don't end up in places like this without what? Without earning it? Without being extraordinary?" Austin's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Grace, you earned every single thing you have. Your job, your education, your future. You, no one else. Then why does it feel like I'm always pretending?" "Because you're surrounded by people who've never had to fight for anything. People who were born into rooms like that and think that makes them better. His forehead touched hers, an intimate gesture that made her breath catch. But you're real, Grace. You're the most real person I've ever met. And that terrifies them. They stood like that for a long moment, the world reduced to his hands on her face and his breath mixing with hers. I should go back in, Austin said finally, but he didn't move. I should apologize to the donors or, Grace whispered, we could just leave. Both of us. Austin pulled back to look at her, surprise and something else, hope, in his eyes. You'd leave with me? I'd rather be anywhere with you than in there without you. His smile was slow and devastating. I know a diner that makes the best pie in the city. Perfect. They left the gala behind, the judgmental eyes and poisonous words and performance of it all, and went to a tiny diner where no one cared about their fancy clothes. They ordered pie and coffee and talked until the sun came up. And when Austin finally drove Grace home, when he walked her to her door and looked at her like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen, Grace realized something that changed everything. She was falling in love with Austin Kingswell. And she was pretty sure he was falling too. Grace couldn't sleep. She lay in her small bed, still wearing the emerald dress because she couldn't quite bring herself to take it off, replaying every moment of the night. Austin's fury at the gala, his hands on her face, the way he'd looked at her in that diner like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. I'd rather be anywhere with you. She'd actually said that, out loud, to her boss. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Austin. Are you awake? Grace's heart jumped into her throat. She typed back. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Can't sleep either. Keep thinking about tonight. Me too. Grace, I need to tell you something. Can I call? Her hands were shaking when she typed. Yes. The phone rang immediately. She answered before the first ring finished. Hi. Austin's voice was rough, like he'd been awake as long as she had. Hi. Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. I lied to you, Austin said finally. At the gala, when I said I brought you because you're brilliant at your job. Grace's heart plummeted. Oh. I mean, you are brilliant. That part's true. But it's not why I wanted you there. He took a breath. I wanted you there because I wanted to be with you. Because every event I've attended for the past 5 years has been torture. And I hoped, maybe with you, it would be different. Was it? Grace whispered. It was worse. Because I had to watch people judge you, dismiss you, disrespect you. And I couldn't do what I really wanted to do. Which was, tell them all you're mine. Grace stopped breathing. Austin, I know. I know it's inappropriate. You work for me. There are rules and boundaries, and 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't feel this way. His voice cracked. But Grace, I've been lying to myself for weeks, telling myself I'm just being protective, just being professional. And tonight, when you said you'd rather be anywhere with me, I meant it, Grace said. Every word. More silence. Then, what are we doing, Grace? I don't know. But I know I haven't stopped thinking about you since that night outside the bar. I know that when you look at me, I feel seen in a way I've never felt before. I know that... She stopped, terrified to say it out loud. Say it. Please. I know I'm falling for you, and it scares me to death because I've never had anything good that didn't fall apart in my hands. Grace. Austin's voice was raw with emotion. I'm already there. I've been falling since I saw you trying to hold yourself together in that alley. Since you walked into my office and challenged me. Since you looked at Riley and saw yourself and didn't feel sorry for yourself. You felt inspired. Tears streamed down Grace's face. This is crazy. You're my boss. I'm nobody. Stop. Right now, stop. Austin's voice turned fierce. You are not nobody. You're the woman who makes me want to be better, who makes me remember why the foundation matters, who looks at me and sees me, not just what I can give or what I'm worth. But what do we do? About work, about... Tomorrow, we figure it out. We talk to HR, set boundaries, do whatever we need to do the right way. His voice softened. But tonight, I just needed you to know. You're not alone in this, Grace. Whatever this is, we're in it together. Grace pulled the blanket around herself, phone pressed to her ear like it could bring him closer. I don't want to lose my job. I need this job. You won't lose it. I promise. Even if this doesn't work between us, you earned that position. It's yours. He paused. But Grace, I really want this to work. Me too. They talked until the sun came up, about everything and nothing, about Austin's childhood after his mother died, about Grace's lonely years growing up, about dreams and fears and the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone in. When Grace finally hung up, her face hurt from smiling. She had one new text, from a number she'd deleted but still recognized. Luke, saw you at the Kingswell Gala with your boss. Playing dress-up now? You'll never really be one of them, Grace. 6 months ago, those words would have destroyed her. Now, she just deleted them and went to sleep, Austin's words echoing in her mind. You're the woman who makes me want to be better. And for the first time in her life, Grace believed she might actually be enough. Monday morning, Grace arrived at the office to find Austin waiting by her door. We need to talk to HR, he said without preamble. Before this goes any further, we do it right. Grace nodded, stomach churning with nerves. Okay. Jennifer Kim, the Foundation's HR director, listened to their carefully rehearsed explanation with an unreadable expression. Grace sat on the edge of her chair, hands twisted in her lap, certain this was the end of everything. So, Jennifer said finally, you're telling me you've developed feelings for each other, but nothing has happened that would constitute a relationship violation of our workplace policy. Correct, Austin said. We wanted to be transparent before anything progressed. And you understand that as CEO and employee there are significant power dynamics at play? Yes. Austin's jaw was tight. Which is why Grace should be reassigned. To someone else's supervision. I won't put her in a position where her career advancement is questioned because of our relationship. Grace's head snapped toward him. They hadn't discussed this. Jennifer looked between them. Grace, how do you feel about that? Grace swallowed hard. I don't want special treatment, but I also don't want to lose my job because I have feelings for someone. You won't lose your job. Jennifer's expression softened. This isn't the first time this has happened at the Foundation, and I'm sure it won't be the last. You both came to me before anything inappropriate occurred. That shows integrity. She pulled out a form. I'm going to recommend Grace be reassigned to report to Marcus in development. You'll still work with the scholarship program, but Austin won't be your direct supervisor. That removes the immediate conflict of interest. That works, Grace said quietly. As for a personal relationship, as long as it doesn't interfere with work, and as long as there's no favoritism or abuse of power, the Foundation doesn't prohibit it. Jennifer looked directly at Austin. But I'm putting you both on notice. The moment this becomes a problem, for Grace's career, for team morale, for the Foundation's reputation, we revisit this conversation. Understood? Understood, they said in unison. Walking out of Jennifer's office, Grace felt like she could finally breathe. Austin's hand found hers in the elevator. Are you okay? He asked. I think so. Are you? I'm better than okay. He squeezed her hand. Can I take you to dinner? Actual dinner, not a business meeting disguised as dinner. A real date. Grace's smile felt like sunshine. I'd like that. Tonight? Tonight. That evening, Austin picked her up at 7 in casual clothes, jeans and a sweater that made him look younger, more approachable. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a neighborhood Grace had never explored. No photographers, no society pages, Austin explained as they were seated at a corner table. Just us. The dinner was perfect. They talked like they had on the phone, easy and honest and real. Austin told her about his dreams for the foundation, about places he wanted to travel but never had time for. Grace talked about her nursing finals, about her hope to specialize in pediatrics like Riley. When Austin reached across the table and took her hand, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about that night at the bar, when I saw you." "Okay?" "I wasn't just passing by. I was leaving a business dinner and I was thinking about ending it all. Not—" He stopped, clarified quickly. "Not my life, but the foundation, the company, everything. I was so tired, Grace. Tired of the performance, the loneliness, the feeling that nothing I did actually mattered." Grace's hand tightened on his. "And then I saw you, crying but trying so hard to be strong. And I thought, here's someone who's actually fighting for something real, who hasn't given up even though she has every reason to." His eyes met hers. "You saved me that night, Grace. Not the other way around." Tears pricked her eyes. "Austin, I'm not telling you this to make you feel responsible for me. I'm telling you because you need to know. You matter. To me, to the foundation, to every student whose life you're changing. You matter." Grace stood up, circled the table, and kissed him. It was soft and sweet and tasted like hope. When they pulled apart, Austin's eyes were bright with emotion. "I've wanted to do that since the diner," Grace whispered. "I've wanted you to do that since the alley." They left the restaurant hand in hand, walking through the quiet streets like they had all the time in the world. But the next morning, Grace woke to a notification that shattered their perfect bubble. A gossip blog had published photos of them at the restaurant. The headline made her stomach turn. "Kingswell Foundation CEO dating employee. Romance or power play?" Grace called Austin immediately. "Did you see?" "I saw. Don't read the comments. Don't let it get in your head." But she could hear the tension in his voice. "I'm calling our PR team. We'll issue a statement." "What kind of statement?" "The truth. That we're two adults who developed feelings for each other and handled it appropriately through HR. That your job has never been contingent on a relationship with me, that—" "Austin." Grace cut him off gently. "What if they don't believe that? What if this ruins everything we've built? Then we'll build it again. Together." His voice was fierce. "I'm not hiding you, Grace. I'm not ashamed of us. Are you?" "No, never." But her hands were shaking. "I'm just scared." "Me too. But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of what anyone thinks." The statement went out that afternoon. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Social media exploded with takes, some supportive, most not. Grace became the waitress who seduced her billionaire boss. Austin became another rich man abusing his power. For 3 days, Grace couldn't open her phone without seeing vitriol. She stopped going to her favorite coffee shop because the barista gave her a judgmental look. She avoided the foundation's cafeteria because people whispered when she walked by. On the 4th day, Riley called her. "I saw the news," Riley said without preamble, "and I need to tell you something. That scholarship, it changed my life. Not just the money, the fact that someone believed in me. That someone saw me as more than just a single mom struggling to get by." Her voice was fierce. "Grace, you saw me that way. You helped me believe in myself. So I don't care what the internet says. I know who you are." Grace started crying. "Thank you. Also, I told the student group what happened. We're organizing a response. A letter of support signed by every scholarship recipient. Because you deserve to know. You matter to us." The letter went viral. Hundreds of students, past and present, shared their stories of how Grace had helped them, how she'd remembered their names, their struggles, their dreams, how she'd fought for them when no one else would. The narrative started to shift. And when Austin appeared on a local news program and said, clearly and without hesitation, "Grace Miller is the best thing that's ever happened to the foundation and to me, and I won't apologize for falling in love with her," Grace knew they were going to be okay. Not perfect, not easy, but okay, together. 3 months later, Grace was taking her nursing finals when Luke showed up at the testing center. She saw him through the window as she walked out, exhausted but confident she'd passed. He was leaning against his car in the parking lot, clearly waiting for her. Grace's first instinct was to call Austin. Her second was to call security. Her third, the one she chose, was to walk straight up to Luke and handle it herself. "What are you doing here?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "I heard you were testing today. Wanted to see if you actually went through with it." Luke's smile was condescending. "Congratulations. You managed to finish school while sleeping with a billionaire. Must be nice." A year ago, those words would have shattered her. Now they just made her tired. "Luke, I don't have time for this. I need to get to work." "Right, your very important job at the foundation." He pushed off the car. "You think you're better than me now? Better than where you came from?" "I think I'm different than I was. I think I'm stronger. I think I finally figured out my worth." Grace met his eyes steadily. "And I think you showing up here says more about you than it does about me." "You're making a mistake with him," Luke said, voice dropping to something almost concerned. "Guys like Kingswell don't end up with girls like you. He'll get bored, you'll get hurt, and I'll be here to pick up the pieces." Grace actually laughed. "You really think I'd come back to you, after everything? Where else would you go? You think you fit in his world? You'll always be the waitress, Grace, the scholarship case, the charity project." Luke stepped closer. "I'm offering you a way out before you embarrass yourself further." "No." The word came out strong and clear. "You're offering me a way back to being small, being invisible, being someone who accepts crumbs and calls it love." Grace shouldered her bag. "I'm done being small, Luke. I'm done with you." She turned to walk away. Luke grabbed her arm. "Let go of me." Grace's voice was ice. "Grace, I'm trying to help you. I said let go." "Is there a problem here?" Grace's head snapped up. Austin stood 10 feet away, his expression terrifyingly calm. Luke dropped her arm immediately. "Kingswell, didn't know you made house calls." "I don't. I make girlfriend calls." Austin walked over, positioned himself slightly between Grace and Luke. "She asked you to leave her alone, multiple times. You need to start listening. This is between me and Grace. There is no you and Grace. There's Grace, who's asked you repeatedly to respect her boundaries, and you, who keeps ignoring them." Austin's voice was deadly quiet. "Leave, now, or I call the police and file a restraining order." Luke's face flushed with anger and humiliation. "You can't just—" "Yes, I can. And I will." Austin pulled out his phone. "Your choice. Walk away now, or explain to the police why you're harassing my girlfriend in a parking lot." Luke looked at Grace, something desperate in his eyes. "You're really choosing him." "I'm choosing me," Grace said softly. "Finally." Luke stood there for another moment, then walked to his car and drove away. The moment he was gone, Grace's knees buckled. Austin caught her, pulled her against his chest. "I've got you," he murmured into her hair. "You're safe." "How did you know I was here?" "You texted me when you started the test. I calculated when you'd be done." He pulled back to look at her. "I wasn't planning to interrupt. I just wanted to be close in case you needed me." Grace started crying, not from fear or hurt, but from the overwhelming realization that someone actually cared enough to show up, to protect her, to see her as worth protecting. "I'm proud of you," Austin said, "for standing up to him, for knowing your worth." I learned from the best. They stood in that parking lot, holding each other until Grace's breathing steadied. "Take me home?" she asked. "Which home? Yours or mine?" Grace smiled against his chest. 6 months ago, she would have said hers automatically. Would have kept space between them, kept her independence fiercely guarded. "Yours," she said now. "I want to go to yours." Austin's apartment was nothing like Grace expected. She'd imagined cold minimalism, sharp edges, the same careful control he showed the world. Instead, she found warmth, soft furniture, bookshelves overflowing, photos of his mother scattered throughout, a kitchen that was clearly used, not just for show. "It's not what you expected," Austin said, watching her look around. "It's perfect." Grace picked up a photo of a woman with Austin's eyes. "Your mom?" "Yeah, taken about a year before she got sick." His voice was soft. "She would have loved you." "You think so?" "I know so. She always said I needed someone who'd challenge me, who wouldn't let me hide." He crossed to Grace, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "That's you." Grace leaned back against him, feeling safe and seen and home. "I love you," she said. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. Austin turned her to face him, his eyes bright with emotion. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me." "Good. Love should be a little terrifying." He kissed her then, deep and slow and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, Austin rested his forehead against hers. "Move in with me." Grace's breath caught. "What?" "I know it's fast. I know we should probably wait. But Grace, I don't want to wake up without you. I don't want to spend another night in this apartment knowing you're across town in that studio that's too small and too expensive." His hands cupped her face. "Move in with me. Please." Grace thought about her tiny apartment with its leaky faucet and thin walls, thought about the life she'd built there, small and safe and lonely. Then she thought about this apartment, filled with warmth and books, and the promise of something bigger. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll move in with you." Austin's smile was like sunrise. 1 year later, Grace stood in front of 500 nursing students at the Foundation's scholarship ceremony, her hands surprisingly steady. "A year and a half ago," she began, "I was crying in an alley behind a bar, convinced I wasn't good enough for anything. A stranger walked up to me and said something that changed everything. He should have treasured you." She found Austin in the audience, saw him smile. "I thought he meant my ex-boyfriend. And maybe he did, partly. But I've come to understand that the real person who wasn't treasuring me was me." Grace's voice strengthened. "I didn't value myself. I didn't believe I deserved good things. I accepted crumbs and called it love." The students were silent, listening. "This scholarship program exists because someone treasured you. Someone saw your potential and your fight and your worth. But here's what I need you to understand. That's not enough." Grace leaned forward. "You have to treasure yourself. You have to believe you deserve this. Not because someone gave you money, but because you're brilliant and capable and worthy of every opportunity." Applause erupted. Grace stepped down from the podium into Austin's arms. "That was incredible," he whispered. "I learned from the best." After the ceremony, as they walked through the Foundation lobby, Grace noticed something new on the wall. A plaque she hadn't seen before. "The Grace Miller Scholarship Fund for Students Who've Never Stopped Fighting." Grace stopped, staring. "Austin, what is this?" "Your graduation present. I set up a fund in your name. For nursing students specifically." He smiled. "You passed your boards last month. You're officially an RN. I wanted to celebrate that." Tears pricked Grace's eyes. "This is too much. It's not enough. It'll never be enough to show you what you mean to me." Austin took her hand. "Grace, you saved me. You made me remember why any of this matters. You—" He stopped, dropped to one knee right there in the foundation lobby. Grace's heart stopped. "Austin. Grace Miller. You walked into my life on the worst night, and you've made every day since better. You challenge me. You inspire me. You love me in a way I never thought I deserved." He pulled out a small velvet box. "I want to spend the rest of my life treasuring you. Will you marry me?" The ring was simple, a single diamond on a delicate band. Nothing showy or excessive, just perfect. "Yes," Grace whispered through tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring on her finger, stood up, and kissed her, while the foundation staff who'd gathered around applauded. That night, lying in bed in the apartment they now shared, Grace traced the ring on her finger. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Always." "That night in the alley when you said he should have treasured me, I didn't believe you. I thought you were just being nice. And now I know what it means to be treasured, to be seen, to be loved for exactly who I am." She turned to face him. "And I know what it means to treasure someone too, to see them completely and love them anyway." Austin pulled her closer. "Not anyway. Because I love you because you see me completely. I love you too." They fell asleep like that, wrapped up in each other, the ring catching moonlight on Grace's hand. 3 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at the foundation. Riley was Grace's maid of honor. Margaret Chen officiated. The scholarship students lined the aisle, holding candles. When Austin said his vows, his voice was steady and sure. "Grace, you taught me that love isn't about saving someone. It's about seeing them, really seeing them, and choosing them every single day. I see you. I choose you. I treasure you. Today and always." Grace's vows were simpler. "You whispered that someone should have treasured me. Thank you for showing me what that means. Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible. Thank you for loving me when I didn't love myself. I choose you too. Always." As they kissed, as their friends cheered, as they walked back down that candle-lit aisle together, Grace thought about the girl crying in the alley. She wished she could go back and tell her, "You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be treasured." 5 years later, Grace was the Foundation's Director of Healthcare Initiatives. She'd helped hundreds of nursing students achieve their dreams. She'd opened 3 free clinics in underserved neighborhoods. And every night she came home to a man who looked at her like she was the answer to every question that mattered. On their 5th anniversary, Austin found her in their study, working on a new scholarship proposal. "Come with me," he said. "I want to show you something." He drove her to the old neighborhood, where Murphy's Bar used to be. It had been demolished 2 years ago, replaced by something new. A clinic, brand new, state-of-the-art, with a sign that made Grace's breath catch. The Grace Kingswell Community Health Center. "You built a clinic?" she whispered. "We built a clinic. With foundation funds and your vision." Austin wrapped his arms around her from behind. "This is where our story started, where I first saw you. I wanted to make sure that spot became something beautiful, something that helps people." Grace turned in his arms, tears streaming down her face. "How did I get so lucky?" "Not lucky, treasured." Austin kissed her forehead. "The way you were always meant to be." And standing there in front of the clinic built on the ashes of her lowest moment, Grace finally understood what that stranger in the alley had really meant that night. He should have treasured you. Not Luke, not anyone else. The world should have treasured her. And now, finally, beautifully, impossibly, it did.